Hi YouTube, and I wanted to do a story time today about my job. So this I was just reminded of this experience yesterday because I was watching a video and then she was mentioning how this woman was yelling at her and stuff, and I was like, "Oh my god, that reminds me of when I got yelled at work by a nurse because I made a mistake." And keep in mind, this was when I started working there. This was I was 2 months in. I was 2 months in. And she yelled at me and reported me to my supervisor over a simple mistake that I could have easily fixed. So, basically, where this starts is, I come into work, I work in a kitchen. So, I have to, I have to clean all my own dishes. I have to serve food. That's basically what I did at the time. I just served food and washed dishes. I didn't really do much else. And since I had just started, since I was still new, I still had a lot of leeway with what I could do and what I couldn't do. So it was kind of a rinse and repeat kind of job for a little bit. And when I started, they had me go to work immediately. How some days they have training and you just do a couple things on the computer and then you go to work the next week and then you train with an actual person. No, I didn't have that. As soon as I came into work, they made me work. They made me shadow one of my coworkers. And then the second day I come in, I had to shadow another coworker, but then I still had to work. I did my own dishes and all this and that. And there was a point where they were super, super short. They need at least 15 people, in total as people to work. And they only had 4. And that was for nighttime. Nighttime, they only had 3. So I was the third. And so I had, they just threw me out there. They just fed me to the wolves. So the strategies I learned while I was training and what my supervisors and managers taught me, that's kind of what I just used to get used to the job. And because it was a lot of pressure for me, because this was my first job. So I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to seem like I was lazy or I was doing too much. And yeah, so when I had started, they kind of taught me when you give them this, when they're done, try to take it right away and give them something else and then take it away and then go wash the dishes. So that's what I did. And at the time we had to use we had to have a kind of fancy dining room setup. So it had to be with tablecloths, silverware out in the open, organized the exact same way on each table, napkins on the exact same way on each table, tea and salt shakers, or what do you call them, the little sugar holders and salt shakers and pepper shakers all have to be in the middle. Centerpieces have to be in the middle. Chairs cannot be underneath the table. They have to be slightly outward with the handles under the table. And that was the setup. So this is I only work the evening shift, so it's only 4 hours, and it's just dinner. The meal is dinner. So dinner starts we're supposed to open the doors at 4:30, but we can open them earlier if we want to. So I think we opened the doors a little bit earlier that night, and we had a lot of people coming in, nurses bringing in patients and such. And there's some that have to be fed, they need someone to feed them. That is not me. And there's people that can feed themselves. The people that have to be fed, I like to watch them closely. And the people that can feed themselves, I don't really pay them mind. When I see they leave, I pick up their dishes, I take them to the dish room, I rinse them out real quick, and then I go back, wash my hands, go back in the dining room and see who needs help. So that's what I did. So usually people get done around 5 o'clock, 5:20, And if we opened the doors earlier that day, they would be done earlier than that. So at the time, it was this woman, the patient. I'll call her C. So C, she did not move. She did not blink. She did not talk. She was mute. She just stared up at the ceiling and would only open her mouth if she was cued to open her mouth, and she wouldn't really do much else. And then there was a nurse who does not work in my building. She worked in a separate part of the building, but she was there, I'm guessing, because of the short staff or something. So she comes and she feeds the woman, C. We'll call the lady this is the lady that yelled at me, the one that's feeding her. We'll call her Wig, because she wears this ugly ass wig. I still see her from time to time, and I still hate her to this day, but we'll call her Wig. So Wig is a very loud woman. Like, the moment she came in, she'd just be like, "Hi, everybody. Hi." Like, she would be so loud. And she would try to talk to these patients, even though they can't respond at all. They don't have, they don't show any emotion. They can't smile. They can't do anything. She just yells at them and tells them, "Hi, how are you doing?" All this and that. It was annoying, but I thought, oh, maybe she's very friendly, because she was very talkative to, my coworkers and, her other nurses and patients. So I thought, oh, she's probably very friendly, so, I shouldn't pay it no mind. And for context, there's more people. There's about 40 people in this room, to be fed or feed themselves. And there was this man who was also like C. He, was mute. He would just stare straight at you. And he would only be cued to open his mouth if you told him in his ear, "Open," or something like that. And he had a son who would visit very often. And on this particular day, it was that man's birthday. And his son would told the nurse, because the nurse, apparently, she knew him from way before he was in that state of, muteness and sitting down and not being able to do anything. And they basically had a small conversation, and you could tell the son was kind of like this woman, she's kind of making him uncomfortable because she's so pushy and keeps asking questions. And he brought it up to her that it was apparently his birthday, and she was like, "Oh, it's your birthday." And she gets up from feeding C. And she goes to talk to him for 20 minutes. Literally 10 to 20 minutes. And she sings happy birthday to this man so loud. Obnoxiously loud. Not even in a cute, "Wow, thank you for singing happy birthday to me" way. No, she was singing it obnoxiously loud. And I just paid it no mind. I kept doing what I needed to do. A couple people had already left. I picked up their plates. I went to the dish room to wash it. And then I wash my hands. I come back out, I look around. I start taking off, tablecloths and unnecessary stuff, and wiping a couple tables down to just reset them. And I noticed that C had already been fed, from the woman, and she had yet to sit down, because after I came back from washing the dishes, she was no longer talking to that man and his son. She moved on to talk to nurses that were at the next table, and she was just standing there talking to them for what seems like a while, because their conversation was already in depth. It wasn't quick. So I assumed, oh, she's already done. And then there was another nurse at that same table with C and another patient. So I assumed okay, so she's done, because this nurse is not feeding her no more, and this other patient is done. So I think I should take their plates. So I just take C's plate, because the nurse is still kind of feeding the other person, little nibbles. It was maybe this much left on his plate, as big as my fist. That's how much was left on the plate for that man. But then for the woman, literally 80% of the food was done for C. Like, C had already ate 80% of it. And I remember distinctly what we served for dinner that day. We served green beans with cheese ravioli and marinara sauce on top of the ravioli. The serving size of the ravioli was 4 raviolis with a bunch of marinara sauce on top and a big handful of green beans on the side. So you can take a guess why I thought it was done. Because it was 1 partially eaten ravioli left that was like 25% eaten, and 2 or 3 strands of green beans left. And there was no marinara sauce left on that plate. And the woman's drink was empty. She had finished both refills that I had given her prior. So naturally, I assume, right, because this nurse, Wig is all the way at the other side talking to nurses at a different table. And when I see the plate that Wig left on the table, it is done. And it doesn't help because I remember the silverware was all up in the food. It was touching inside the plate. It wasn't left on the side of the table beside, the plate or anything, or on a napkin. No, it was on the plate, like on the plate. Like, when you're going to give your waitress a plate and you just hand it to them and you put all the utensils on it so it's easier to clean up. That's what I thought, because that's how she left it. I pick it up. I take it to this black tray that I have, because it's starting to pick up now. People are starting to leave. Dishes are going to get heavier, so I can't just take each dish one by one like I was doing before, because it's not as fast. So I just leave it there. And this is the only plate I leave on that tray. I leave it there. And I'm starting to clean up the table next to her because that person had left, and I'm trying to clean it up. And that Wig, she comes back and looks at C, and then looks at C's part of the table. And then she goes, where's her plate? And then I turn around, I'm like, oh, I took it. And she goes, I wasn't done feeding her. Like, she said it with more attitude. She was like, I wasn't done feeding her. She went like that. Like, she literally went like this. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And then I almost said, well, you were over there talking, and food was already partially eaten, but I didn't want to start anything. So I just went, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And then I offered her. I was like, well, she was almost done, so I can go get the plate. I just put it over there and bring it back to you. And she said, she literally went, no, it's fine. Like this. Like, what? And she was like, and then I offered, because it was time for dessert as well for the majority of the people that were left. So I'm like, this woman, she has issues eating normal desserts, and I'm pretty sure that dessert was something with crumbs in it, so she couldn't really have stuff that was too crumbly, or else she would choke, since she had limited movement. So I offered her to give her this ice cream supplement, that's thicker than regular ice cream, so it's easier for her to swallow. And I told her, I told Wig, I was like, well, I can go get you this ice cream. And keep in mind, this ice cream is the calories of half a meal, because it's supposed to, be a supplement for a meal, just in case. And I told her, well, I can go get you this ice cream and you can feed her that, and I'll get you a new spoon. Because I also took the spoon, because she also put the spoon on the table. Like, what? She also put the spoon on not the table, on the plate. So I was like, yeah, I can go get you a new spoon and I'll go get you the ice cream. And she went, no, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. And I just go and walk. And she was yelling this, in front of, 3 other nurses, that guy and his son. She literally yelled this at me. And I was like, okay. And I just walked away. I went to... Somebody had asked me for a refill. I think, a Coke or something. No, it was, apple juice. And I went to go get it. And then all of a sudden, my supervisor comes out. He's helping me because I'm still new at this time, so sometimes I need help, passing out leftover desserts and, cleaning up. So that's what he came out to do. My supervisor's been there for a long time, so she knew him. She calls him by name. We're going to call him Leonard. Let's call him Leonard. That ugly name. He's a chill guy, but we'll call him Leonard because that's what came up into my head. So she's like, Leonard, I need to talk to you. Or can we talk? She said something along those lines. And I was like, I already knew what was going to happen, but I had hope. I low-key had hope because, she maybe she just wanted to catch up with him or something. I low-key had hope that's what she wanted to do. But obviously from what I'm saying, that's not what she was going to do. And I heard her, she started whispering as soon as she got near him. And, she saw that I was in the same vicinity. She started whispering. And I remember exactly what she said before I went to the station to go get a refill. She was like, that girl just took his plate, or blah, 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 blah. And then it just turned into mumbling. She got quieter after that. And then I go give the refill. Somebody asked me for another refill. I go get it. And he's also getting a refill for somebody. And then he was like, I think you heard. And I was like, oh. And he was so chill about it. She probably thought it was going to be the end of me. She probably thought, oh, that she's going to get in trouble. They're going to be on my side. They're going to do a whole announcement. No. He literally just told me quietly, just make sure people are done before, you take their plates. Just make sure you ask. And I was going to tell him, I'm doing the same thing I always do. But I was just like, yeah, okay. And yeah, I was just like, what the fuck? And that bitch, ever since then, I have never liked her. Wig. And then to add on top of this, I know I wasn't in the wrong. Because that man's son, that I was talking about previously, that she was singing happy birthday to, his father. He literally went, because I was giving him his dessert. The same little ice cream thing I had offered her, right? He was like, oh, I'm so sorry she did that to you. That wasn't right. Because she yelled at me, in front of everybody. What? Why are you yelling at me when I haven't really done anything wrong and I'm new? So, I don't know this lady. What? And, yeah, so that's how I know I wasn't in the wrong. And I still see that lady from time to time. But she has this ugly ass, big ass wig. And she's older, too. She's, she can't be no less than 70. Because she wears this wig that matches her natural hair color, which you can guess is gray. But it's not gray. It is white gray. You fucking, I don't, how are you still employed gray? How the fuck are you not on retirement already gray? So every time I see her, I think to myself, this ugly bitch, she's gonna talk shit to me when I just started. And, in that ugly ass wig. Because her wig would be it's this big. It's this big. It's a side swoop wig. And then it's puffy on this side as well. And it's straight. And it's just what? And she's wearing these big ass dangling earrings when you're not even supposed to be wearing that as a nurse, because it's a hazard in our line of work where we work, because the patients can't get violent. So it's a hazard. So she wasn't even supposed to be wearing those anyway. But of course, I do one thing wrong where, I just naturally go do my job, and suddenly it's, oh no, you're my issue today. You're my issue. I have a feeling she just doesn't like me, because even to this day, when I see her from time to time, she will say hi to all of my coworkers that she recognizes except me. And I know she recognizes me. Because I see her, my face, immediate, nothing. Nothing. So, I know that bitch recognizes me. And she tried to start small talk with me one day. And I was just like, yeah. I think she said, hi, how are you doing? And I was like, good. And she was like, oh, how's your day been? I'm just like, okay. And she's like, oh, the soda machine's not working. I'm like, I'm just quiet. And she leaves because she can't get her soda. Just, I don't know. Every time I see that bitch, I can't stand her. I just can't stand her. It's just, like, what did I do wrong? Like, I was only like 2 months in to working. And you're going to try and get me in trouble over a simple mistake. I had the solution to easily fix that problem. And she was just like, no. I hate people like that. When you have like an easy solution to their issue from a mistake you made and you're very apologetic about it and you're like, it's just such a simple fix because it was just such a like minor mistake, and they just like dismiss you completely and are like, no, and then they go to complain to you like as if you didn't have a solution for the complaint. If that were me, if we had switched roles, I would have been like, oh yeah, you can give it to me, or I would have taken the dessert, the substitution. I'm like, oh yeah, she was almost done anyway. Because it's like, how do you have a 25% eaten, one piece of the serving size ravioli, and 3 strands of green beans left and no marinara sauce left, and put all the utensils onto the plate and think I'm not gonna take it because obviously it's not done. Like, what? Even nowadays, after that, I'm like kind of traumatized because now I will ask, are you done, or are they done, before I take anything. And it's all because of that one incident with that bitch. Like you walk away, it was already pushing close, like, because we're only open for like an hour and a half, and it was already pushing time to close. Like, what do you mean you weren't done feeding her when that's who you were feeding the whole entire time? You weren't feeding C. You weren't feeding anyone else but C, but you were talking to other people while you were feeding C and would get up and move, and still, this bitch, I don't know. It just, reminding myself about it just makes me mad, because it's like, I didn't even do that. I didn't even do anything wrong. I even offered to fix the issue, and I gave her 2 solutions, and she didn't pick either. She just decided, I'm gonna report her today. And it didn't even work, bitch. Like, come on. Like, that's what makes me laugh about it, too, because it didn't even work. He was just like, yeah, don't do that again. And he was laughing. He was laughing while telling me. I don't think he takes that lady serious either, but, So, yeah, that's my story time, because I was reminded of it recently. So, yeah. Thank you for listening.